Greetings, citizens of the galaxy. Swtor Gaming. In this video, I'm going to give you my thoughts on Palpatine being a clone in The Rise of Skywalker. If you have not heard the leaks and you'd prefer to find out yourself, this is the moment where you click off. If not, stay tuned. Greetings, citizens of the galaxy. Welcome to Swtor Gaming.
Welcome. I believe the Force has guided you to me.
Who we truly are is defined by our actions.
Those of you who are still here, here we go. Well, ever since I watched and thought to myself how Palpatine will come back, I had a feeling that he might be a clone. I didn't like Palpatine being back. I didn't see any other way that it would make sense. And even when, they use the line, "The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some may consider unnatural." I felt that was kind of a cop-out, but I had an idea that most likely he was a clone. The evidence, actually, if you pay attention when you're watching Rise of Skywalker, and then when it's released you can watch it again, it's kind of evident all around you. First of all, I've been saying since the beginning, most people who are not a fan of the movies and say, they're just EU or Legends purists, because that's what we had for years before we were going to get sequels, was that they always say Legends better. Now, okay, Legends is better, like as far as the stories, but you have to understand too, they've taken a lot from Legends. As I've said in many different groups across Facebook, if you pay attention, you'll see the seeds there. Take Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren's personality is a mix of Ben Skywalker and Jason Solo. Ben Solo. It's really not hard to understand. If you're not familiar with those EU stories, they're worth a read. If you don't care because it's not part of canon, that's your prerogative. But it's worth a read, until we start getting more content that they're currently working on and more Legends, canon stories. We still have Legends, and there's the audiobooks on Audible that you can listen to. I frequently listen to them. It helps me when I go work out, or if you're going to be on a long trip somewhere, or if you're just walking around for exercise, whatever you're doing, these books are a great companion to you, and you don't have to sit there and just read. You could also buy the books if you like to sit and read and thumb through pages, but for me, I constantly am multitasking, so Audible actually works for me. And no, they're not paying me. Maybe if I get enough subscribers, they'll probably throw me an affiliate link. I'll have an affiliate link so I can send you guys save some money on them, but I definitely enjoy them. Moving forward, if you watch and you listen and you've heard those stories from Legends, you find out that more and more they've been just borrowing from Legends. Rey's story is the whole Jedi Prince story, and the person who kind of made me remember them, because I hadn't read them in years, is Urban Acolyte Prince. If you ever look him up on YouTube, search Urban Acolyte Archives and look up his Rey playlist, where he talks that Rey is pretty much the Jedi Prince. The whole story about them being on Yavin 4, I think when Return of the Jedi, and finding, maybe after Return of the Jedi, it's been a long time since I read stories, but they find in the temple, they find Palpatine's grandchild, and Luke was trying to shepherd him and teach him, just even though if he comes from a legacy of evil, he doesn't have to be evil. And that was pretty much Rey's story arc all through the Rise. If you look at, see what else, we can go through everything, but there's so many things that they've taken. If you look at Snoke is Jeruah Sabaoth. Jeruah Sabaoth in the Legends Thrawn trilogy that takes place after Return of the Jedi. You have Thrawn, who takes control of the Imperial Forces, is a new commander of the Imperial Forces, the Remnants, finds this guardian of the tomb, Jeruah Sabaoth, who's controlling this planet using his dark side Force powers, and he's apparently a clone of the Jedi Joruus Sabaoth, who died during the Clone Wars, and Palpatine cloned him to make him the guardian of his vault. Now, Snoke is a little bit different, but Snoke is also, as we found out in Rise of Skywalker, is a clone. But instead of guarding a vault, he's guarding his legacy. And in Legends, Jeruah Sabaoth reminds him so much of the Emperor that it's very eerie. His flash crackle of his dark side lightning, his powers to control minds, a lot of that stuff. Snoke demonstrated a lot of those abilities in The Last Jedi, and if you start to look at the stories, the similarities, obviously, all these people who created these things also a lot of them grew up on Legends content as well. So they brought those kind of things to, I guess, the new movies within the little box, the sandbox they were allowed to work in. Now, going to Emperor Palpatine. In Dark Empire, Emperor Palpatine returns. He returns and you find out that he's been using clone bodies for many years, and this is a legend story. And you find out that his power is so immense that he always gets into the body of an adult, and all of a sudden it just corrupts the body and rapidly ages it because his power is so immense. If you had to constantly switch out in new bodies, which, if you remember all the Legends comics and the different drawings and interpretations of them, would make sense why he kind of looks different in every one, which I kind of, in my mind, that's what I make canon to connect that story, not canon as an our canon in Star Wars Legends. I mean, in order to connect that story, I would believe in my mind that the reason why the Palpatine is drawn differently in different comics is that every clone gets degraded in a different way. Now, the new Rise of Skywalker novelization is actually bringing that Legends concept of Palpatine's clones and bringing it to canon. In Rise of Skywalker, we see all these Snokes in a tank that most people are joking about, but we find out that Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, senses that Palpatine's a clone. And I mean, there was a line that Ian McDiarmid has come out and said that was originally in the script.
Or something. At one point, the script had the line in that first scene with Adam when he says, "You're a clone." And I said in that original script, which is no longer with us, more than a clone, less than a man. Which seemed to me to sum him up, really, because we knew that, well, the camera has already snaked past the clone tank, in which there are various versions of Snoke that you probably noticed. Spin it back and have a look. Well, you can't yet, can you? But you'll be able to once it's on Disney Plus. I think not too far distant future. So Snoke was a clone.
Here's my general thoughts on it. Maybe they would take away from this not being Palpatine. Maybe they felt it didn't flow with the movie. That's a creative decision that I don't know if it was Bob Iger who had the final say on it, but whoever did decided to cut out the movie. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. The whole point of this...
Palpatine was responsible for everything. He made everything in one way or another. And that's, talk about power early on. If you think back from that threaded throughout all of the movies, is this sense of evil, and in a sense when everyone commits a bad act, it's because of this character's influence, either in public or pervasively in private, or apparently dead. So that's power.
At the end of the day, The Last Jedi wasn't received the way they wanted to be received, so then they wanted to get past this. Colin Trevorrow wrote a fantastic script. If you guys haven't read it, you can find it online. I mean, I downloaded and read it. The script is amazing. The script, if this was the movie that came out, if Carrie Fisher had not passed away, I guarantee you, people would have been like, oh my God, Star Wars is amazing, and it would have created so much more new fans. I mean, there have been new fans, younger fans, fans who love Rey, fans who love Finn, fans who are really interested in Poe. The way I was in a kid, and everyone of my generation, like Luke, Han, and Leia, and Chewie. So I think that regardless, it ended, and Palpatine being a clone, although I do agree that's something that probably should have been shared. Again, I think this whole process has not worked out the way they wanted to, and they need to move past it to now start doing things the way they want. As much people want to blame Kathleen Kennedy, remember, it was Bob Iger who wanted the movie out by 2015. You know how I know that? I read his novel. Bob is a guy who needed to make a return on the investment. He was the CEO of Disney. Disney and the board allowed him to spend money to acquire Lucasfilm. They needed to get their money back, and that's why they needed a hit movie out by 2015. If you read and you really like this stuff and you actually want to know what you're talking about when you're talking with other people, do your research. That's it. All you got to do is do your research. Bob needed a movie out by 2015. They did it. The movie did great. It was different than what the treatments that Lucas wrote for them. He wrote a couple of treatments that they bought on the condition that they didn't have to use it. And they didn't. They wanted to go somewhere familiar to give a feel for older fans that were going to drive the ticket purchase sales of this first movie. Now, going forward, that's not something they could do. They can't just come up with a movie. They got to come up with a huge connective tissue. They basically have connective tissue over everything they do. So the stories and the comics and everything are all connected. And now that is Project Luminous. Project Luminous is connecting the directors, creative heads, Lucasfilm Story Group, authors, and they're going to spearhead this new story that's going to take place in the High Republic era. The character designs are created by the guy who designed the character for Darth Maul, which is, I don't know how many of you guys saw Phantom Menace when you guys were younger. When it came out in theaters. And people I don't remember what movie it was that had in its trailer, but people used to just go watch because we didn't have YouTube. I think we had dial-up internet. If you guys don't know what that is, look that up. And we would just go to the theater just to see this trailer and leave. And just go to see it again because Star Wars is back, baby. And even though Phantom Menace is what it is at this point, Darth Maul was something so unique. And the fighting was so much better. The lightsaber combat was so much better than had been in the previous movies, which mirrored the samurai. If you watch those old samurai films, they were very calculating. Like the fight between Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi and Vader aboard the Death Star is very reminiscent of those 60s samurai movies, where it was just very calculating. That one strike could mean instant death. If you study Aido or know anybody, Aido is the way of the sword, or know anybody who does, you would understand that the moment the sword is drawn, it's supposed to be a kill. So that's how that combat is. That's why it was very slow. But as far as an appealing style of combat, you got to give it to Ray Parks. It was awesome. Still to this day, I think one of the best lightsaber duels. So, moving forward, that's the designer who designed basically the paint and the outfit designed by Ray Park was designed by the same guy who's doing all the designs for the High Republic era Jedi, which are more like Texas Rangers. They're policing the Outer Rim. That's when you hear that story. For thousands of years, the Jedi haven't protected the Republic. It's not the exact line, but it's really interesting that we're getting this right now, and that they're working together to cohesively create a story that's going to connect with the comics. They're getting everybody together, and a lot of people go, "They should have done this at the beginning," but they had to, in a sense, like monetarily, they did not fail, but in the eyes of the fans, they did fail. It's almost like the Force. They had to come to this decision so the business people would let the creatives do what they need to do. If any of you guys don't work for yourselves or work for the job, you guys understand what I'm talking about. If you're in any type of like entry management position, corporate never understands they only see money and they never understand what it takes to daily do your job. Corporate never understands. They're just looking at cash. So if you do things the way corporate wants, there's always a problem because there's always that lack of awareness of what it takes to get through your day, or what it takes for you to do your job in a way that's pleasing to your customers. They never have that idea, nor do they care. They care about how much money it costs to do anything and how much money you're making. That's only two things they care about. So of course, creatives are always, well, usually, I wouldn't say always, but 9 times out of 10 are at odds, creatives, with corporate and the monetary structure of business. So that's why they had to get to this point, because they're like, wait, hold on, Marvel's succeeding, but we're losing Star Wars. What's the difference? Well, number one, Marvel slowly had a slower build over a period of time. Star Wars, when it came back, automatically there was an expectation, because now it's under the Disney umbrella, that they were going to just do out the gate as well as Disney's Marvel stuff did. Difference is that Bob Iger made moves to unshackle Kevin Feige, because remember, before Kevin Feige was right under, I'm trying to think who, suggestions and strategies aren't exactly right. And as Bob Iger admitted with the Solo release, if they released Solo Star Wars stories around Christmas time, I guarantee you that movie would have done gangbusters, but it didn't. So he's had a lot of mistakes. Even though he's had a lot of success, he's also had a lot of mistakes, and he owned up to them. A lot of the fault they've had, yes, some of it does go on Kathleen Kennedy. You know, it's part of her job to be able to tell these creatives who come and work as creative directors on the movies, like, hey, look, here's the outline of what we want to do. Not come up with whatever your plan is, you know, but that's what they're doing now with the High Republic. Mind you, all these failures they've had with the fans, because monetarily they've made their money. So, like, the Disney Corp is really, although there's made issues with fans and with certain problems with movie reshoots, especially on the Star Wars side, they've been happy with the return they're making on their investment. So now they can focus more on creative. So my whole thoughts about this in general is that things are going to get better now. Now that they've had their failures, now they've decided, like, hey, look, we need to let these people do what they can do. We need to bring everybody together so nobody, and like, see, they have a handful of people, like the most prominent authors and everything, like Claudia Gray. I forgot what the Kavan Scott, who did the Dooku audio drama. If you haven't listened to that audiobook, it's amazing. Very fun. It introduces a new group of dark side witches, so it's something that might interest you guys. Like I said, mentioned Claudia Gray. There's a bunch of other ones as well. I'm trying to remember the other ones. But there's also talking to other people who've done other stuff, like Delilah Dawson, who did Phasma. They're talking to the rest of their authors, talking to the people doing the comic books, and trying to make sure that when they're doing the era, the High Republic era, that everything is connected. How is this going to spill over to the comic, to the movies? Well, once they get this down, and once they can fully define the mythology of this era, they'll be able to really give us something that's some really, really good storytelling going forward. Because this initiative is only designed to make it stronger. Now, everyone's criticizing, this should have been done a long time ago. But I've already explained to you why that couldn't have happened. When it's like WWE, the reason the stories are so terrible right now is because they're a publicly traded company. So you can't just do whatever you want to create a good story. You have stockholders, you have other people who you have to be responsible for. Here's my thing. I think that going forward, the stories are going to get better. I'm seeing what they're trying to do and them being as transparent as they can without giving us the story away. They introduced us to the villains of this era, going to be the Nile. They're from the edge of the galaxy, the Outer Rim. And their slogan is, you cannot take it with you, but we can take it from you. And there's rumors about Sith gods that are possibly appearing in these things. So that's something to really, really think about, you know what I mean? When it comes down to the creative storytellings, that we'll be able to have something that really is connected through comic books, through everything. And they said that each story will be able to stand alone, but if you get everything, it'll be able to have a bigger picture of the whole galaxy, which is interesting. Now, some people may hate that. They might not want to spend all the money, but at least you'll be able to get stories you want. And if you really you're a big diehard, you get everything, you'll have a great picture. So, who knows? You might have fans. You might want someone that's your friend who's really into comics. He collects Star Wars comics. You might be reading audiobooks. Maybe you guys trade information. Like, so-and-so, but in this comic, so-and-so does this. So I think it's really good going forward. And it's not something they said it has something that hasn't been done before. And some people will go, well, Shadows of the Empire did that. But I think because Shadows of the Empire never went into the movies, I think this time it's going to spread into the movies. So this is some huge undertaking that it's going to eventually connect everything together. So I'm real happy about that. Well, let me know what you guys think below. Ultimately, the Emperor, the way the Emperor came back, it was, I honestly, I didn't care for the Emperor being in this movie to begin with, but if he had to be in it, that's the story they're going to tell. It's fine. It's over with. It's done with. I mean, there's nothing you can change it. To me, there's no sense in complaining about the things you can't change. You got to work on the things that you can. Going forward, they're working on it. I'm good. Let's see what they got in store. Mandalorian was a proof of this. For people who are detractors, take a look at The Mandalorian, watch that again, and tell me if that series wasn't great. The series was great, and that's what they did. They worked together, and that was a test for the way, it was a little example of the way things are going to move going forward. Then, heck yeah, man, I'm all for it. All right, so guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and you know, I'd like to hear your thoughts, and maybe we could discuss. Let me know what you guys want to see, what subjects you want me to cover, and we'll go moving forward. I'm trying to get a backdrop so that on live stream, I got to get a haircut too, so you guys will be able to see my face and maybe laugh at me or whatever. But anyway, hey, it's been great. You guys have been very supportive. I'm very thankful of each and every one of you that subscribe to this channel. Spread this to your friends, because I'd like to eventually be able to, you know, have more money so I can pay other people to help me do this, because right now I'm doing this on my own. So, I mean, spread it to all your friends who like Star Wars, and may the force of your will further your destiny. Alright? Because it takes your will to get everything, sheer will, and your sheer will to get anything done in this life. You know, no matter how many hardships you go through. And that's why that's always been my slogan. So may the force of your will further your destiny. Destiny of your choosing, always.